And welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to another day, another edition of the LiuLi Cup 2024 Grand Finals Group B. I'm, of course, your ZvP with you. I'm joined by these amazing players, the people in chat, and by my plushies as well. Welcome, one and all. And a big shout out to Sort of, big shout out to Sort of for a massive raid. Hope you had a great stream. Hope you had a great ladder session. And welcome, one and all, to the group stage of the LiuLi Cup as we are jumping right into our first series, into our first game. And spawning in the bottom left-hand corner of late lines, we have the Polish Protoss player, the blue Protoss. For Team Liquid, it is MaNa. And spawning in the top right-hand corner, we have his opponent, we have the red Zerg player from Lana, Finland, representing Basilisk. It is Serral. And if you're in the chat, you know what time it is. It's Gamba time. Predictions are open. Place your bets on who you think will take the series. Best of luck in the chat. As a reminder, this is going to be a best of 3, and this is a GSL group format. The way this works here, we have Serral versus MaNa to kick things off, followed by Spirit versus Hero. Then the winners face off against each other in the winners match, then the losers match, then the decider match thereafter. So 5 best of 3s are here for you tonight. Let's go. Let us go. Of course, we already featured Group A less than a week ago at this point. It was earlier this week on Monday we featured Group A, and we were able to showcase our top 2 players making it through the group stage into the playoff bracket. That was Rainer and Gumiho making it out of Group A. Now we're here to find out who joins them in the playoff bracket. Of course, there are 4 groups in total, A, B, C, and D, and we'll be going over those groups over the next 2 weeks. It's going to be group stage for the next 2 weeks, and of course the playoff brackets thereafter. It's a lot of StarCraft because we have the LiuLi Cup, we have Masters Coliseum as well, and of course all the other regular events thereafter. So every day this month we have a cast, multiple times a day, even 2-3 times a day have a cast. As we usually do here on the CranKy Ducklings, as we usually do, all the StarCraft, all the casting. For the time being, we're settling in. Is going to be a Hatchcast full standard opener here out of Serral. Likewise, we have MaNa going for the gate expand as well. MaNa has a certain playstyle when it comes to PvZ. If you've been watching MaNa over the past couple of weeks, over the past month, I would say, you'd be familiar about MaNa. He is very fond of going for a Stargate opener into a third base, into a faster Twilight Council, Robo, Temple Archives, into Archon drop. He's very fond of it. Not saying he'll go for it every single game, but that is his go-to, especially getting to a standard mid-game in towards the late game even. Mainly the mid-game, I should say, as he does focus on that timing, on that Archon push. Can be a lot more assertive with it. For now, there's that Stargate that we did mention, just Stargate open for the time being, and Serral does take a third. Of course, I'm curious if potentially MaNa has been preparing something special coming into the group stage. We have been aware of the groups for a couple of weeks at this point. I say a couple of weeks, yeah, for almost 2 weeks at this point. And MaNa, I'm sure, has been cooking up a storm, getting ready for Serral, as of course Serral is one of the favorites, or is the favorite to make it out of the group. We'll see how MaNa can perform. We shall see. But now we're just saturating our bases, getting our 3 base setup up and running. MaNa moving out with the initial depth, just to get some scat information, just to make sure there's no earlier tech, no earlier gases, no earlier shenanigans out of Serral. We go. As the Oracle is on the way. No crazy opener, no initial Void Ray or Phoenix is going to be the Oracle first out of MaNa. Of course, for those that are unaware, for those who haven't been watching over the past, again, month, even 2 months, MaNa has been improving so much and getting so much better results. It's been crazy to see the growth of MaNa and the reinvigoration of MaNa. Yep, there's the Robo. Reinvigoration of MaNa going into December, going into the end of 2024, to see MaNa take down the top Korean players and even the top foreigners time and time again. It's been amazing to see the growth of MaNa in this time. It is going to be the Stargate into third base, into Robo. This should lead into a Twilight Council, Temple Archives into Archons. And there it is. There's the Twilight Council into Archon drop. This is MaNa's go-to that we mentioned earlier. This is what he does thrive in this matchup. Now, the way that this matchup, or the way that this build works here, outside of just going into the Archon drop, is that it leads into a very heavy Archon Immortal-based composition, less so heavy kind of like Blink Stalker aggression and Blink Stalker harass, as you typically would in a standard ZvP. The downside of this opener, the downside of this build, is your lack of Oracles, as you only have 1 Oracle instead of your typical 3. So there is a bit of a give and take here as to the pros and cons of this build. It means that it is going to be a little bit more difficult to scout, to get economic damage done, to get a read on what your opponent's up to. If Serral were to be hiding tech or rushing into something like a faster lair, into faster upgrades even, then it would be a little bit more difficult for MaNa to be aware of that. We have seen MaNa struggle against like hidden Spire plays, hidden mutas for example, as it can be difficult to scout. Meanwhile, War Prison is moving out across the map, and this is lined up with the completion of the Temple Archives to actually warp in the High Templar to get into the Archon drop. So the Archon drop is upon us. This does hit later than your typical DT Archon drop, for example, as the High Templar morph in, and the Archons have arrived. Now, this is just designed to get economic damage. This is designed to catch Lings, to catch Overlords, potentially Queens, a couple of drones here and there. This isn't necessarily designed to kill, as MaNa's building up behind this. As we mentioned, we're meant to be building up into a higher Immortal count, into more Archons, into potentially Storm in a longer later game. Lings, they come in for harass, they shut down the shield battery. Boys are being pulled to try to protect it, but the shield battery should be going down. At the same time, Archons, they do dive in, but Serral, he is getting ready. Did throw down the safety Roach Horn. Queens are in position. Clutch Transfuse saves the Queens. We do see MaNa actually going to be reinforcing it with the Archon. Ooh, oh my god, clutch save. Clutch save on the Archon. Archon gets saved. He pulls out, pulls away, and we spoke about the Spire play. There it is, Spire gets thrown down. Now, this is a typical response against an Archon drop opener like this. The reason for this is because, as you can imagine, no Blink Stalkers. When you go for this kind of build, there is no Blink, there is no +1. We did mention that this is the downside of it, as you're not applying as much pressure with as mobile of an army. And of course, you have limited anti-air, as you're heavily reliant on Archons and on Storm. Speaking of Storm, there it is. Storm is down in production from the side of MaNa. And if the Spire goes unscouted, then Serral can wreak havoc and snowball out of control. It's happened before against MaNa, it can happen again. Again, that is one of the weaknesses of this kind of build. It's on MaNa to figure out what's going on. Once he does, then he can start Blink, then he can start Phoenix production. Remember, MaNa still did open Stargate, so he has access to Phoenixes, he just has to know to make some. As he's dipping in between the bases. Again, the Spire is at the third for the time being. MaNa has yet to confirm. His Oracle is chilling back at home, throwing down stasis traps. And so far, MaNa just poking in, getting an Overlord, denying creep. Like, what he's getting here isn't bad whatsoever. It's the, I mean, the problem is just this hidden tech. And Muta production has begun. Mutas are on the way. Roach counterattack towards the third base. Storm isn't quite done. The High Templar are exposed. But so far, the Roach is not getting too much done, but they do form a distraction. They force MaNa back home with the drop. And the Mutas, they break out. So the Mutas rallying towards bottom right. So rotating towards that natural. We have cannons, shield batteries on. That's a lot of cannons. Let's go. It looks like the Mutas, they haven't spotted. So he dives in. He doesn't quite get the Immortal. Nice control here by MaNa. Does save himself. They dive into the main. Phoenix production has begun. There's one Phoenix on the way. The Archon's in position. And so far, MaNa, he reacts well. Does react very nicely. The cannons and shield batteries to finish up just in time. And the Mutas are not getting much done. Whew. Again, it was a late reaction out of MaNa, but just in time. Just in time. So far, MaNa, he holds. And now MaNa, he's building up that Immortal count, building up that Archon count. Remember, all these High Templar, they're building up energy for Storm. And here comes the move out. And these Mutas, they have not paid for themselves. Not yet. Ooh, never mind. I was waiting for the moment that MaNa would move out, and the fourth base is on the way, so MaNa is trying to expand. He's also taking to a second Stargate. Oh! There's a cancel on the base, on the Nexus. And MaNa, he's pulling... He's looking to be pulled apart. Serral, poking in, doesn't quite commit. Serral, he is maxed out on Roach Hydra. The longer this goes on, the better it is for MaNa as he's catching up in supply, warping in more Archons, High Templar, Immortals, even Fleet Beacons on the way. And the Fleet Beacon tells us that MaNa most likely is going to be turtling. He's not pushing out. So he's going to be staying back at home. And this Fleet Beacon should be for, I would imagine, investment into Skytoss, not into Phoenix range. As there are barely any Mutas. Oh, the Phoenix! No! As the first Phoenix doesn't quite go down. MaNa, he does hold. Second Phoenix though does get caught. Oh, does fall. MaNa is thinking about moving out. Yeah, he's going to be pushing. Mutas are dealt with. Fleeping does finish, but he does nothing with it. And he can deny the expansion. Lurker Tech is somewhat ready, but the base is going to fall. And from here, the question becomes, does MaNa keep pushing? Does he back up? At the same time, attempts to run by. There's a wall of spine crawlers. Serral, he is defending. He's startling up himself. The High Templar get left get out of here. High Templar get left behind. And Serral, he sees. He does catch 1, 2, 4 High Templar. Ay, ay, ay. That was a rough A move there from MaNa as they were stuck with the larva. Another High Templar goes down, and another, oh my god, the High Templar gets reset. And that was how many? That was 6 High Templar going down. Oh, that is brutal. Those were so many storms. 13 probe kills, MaNa gets forced back, and Serral, he's maxing out on a more refined army. He's throwing away his roaches and building up more hydras and more lurkers. Ay, ay, ay. MaNa, he was doing well up until that moment. As again, the High Templar, they were just caught on a move on the larva. They were left behind. Lurker count is building up. Tempest production has begun for MaNa. But he needs more time. He needs a 4th base. MaNa is double expanding. He needs one of these bases up and running. As he moves out, Serral is ready for a run by. Once again, he wants to get rid of these roaches. Does want to get rid of them. So now MaNa is going to zone him away. Does force him back, but the army's out of position. Serral, he does strike the 4th, and the win condition for Serral is just deny the 4th base. Deny the 4th base over and over again. And he will. He's forcing the all-in. MaNa, he avoids the main army, just sends it across the map. He attempts to. Serral, he backs off in time. MaNa, how many High Templar does he have? He's got 3. Okay, 3 High Templar, 3 storms. Or at least 3. As the base is under threat. First storm does land. We can see Serral setting up a flank. Another storm on the lurkers. The base does go down. At the same time, Serral counterattacking. Depowering the natural. Getting the robo. The cyber core as well. Denying upgrades. And MaNa is getting pulled apart. Tempest goes down. Oh my god. Serral gets the Tempest. Gets a War Prism. And Mothership for MaNa. Forces turn back around. Getting into Void Ray production. MaNa making just whatever he can. Serral spots the army, gets another Tempest. We get another most efficient of dives here out of Serral, but he can afford it. He can afford these trades. MaNa less so. Remember, MaNa is still trying to expand, still trying to take a 4th. As he tries to, Serral, he rocks up once again to knock it down. So the Nexus is denied. There is a Nexus up and running technically, but no saturation. MaNa once again, he rotates towards that center base, does force a cancel, but he cannot push into this. I mean, the immortal count is quite high, but still down 40 supply. Corruptors, they do take a storm to the face. Storm does connect. Lurkers, they move out. They're going for the 3rd. And MaNa, he's slowly gaining ground, but as he is, he's losing a base. He's losing an expansion. Probes are falling. As he picks up a couple of units, Serral, he can replace them. And MaNa, he's on a timer. Oof. Yeah, as the Nexus does fall. How many Tempests does he have? 6. 6 Tempest. MaNa poking in. Storm does land. Oh my god. Serral, he stands in the storm. The Corruptors are very low. But they did get a Tempest. Meanwhile, Serral has found the quote-unquote ninja base, the 5th. So the Nexus is going to go down. And across the map, the lurkers, they just keep pushing forward. Spire is somewhat exposed. True. And the Tempest, they are trading well. If only MaNa had an economy behind this, if only he could max out. If he could, then he could threaten Serral. The problem is that Serral has no reason to dive in. Like, Serral is just being very patient play. Just waiting for MaNa to pull the trigger. Across the map, Serral taking down more bases, pushing into the natural. Like, Serral's just chilling. Oh, MaNa does rotate, catching out some of these lurkers. Lurkers do forward. Tempest going to be going down. And MaNa, he commits into the lurkers. And he's going to lose everything here. The Tempest, the Archons, it's all falling. And GG gets called. Serral takes game number 1. Whew. GG. GG, well played. Again, I do want to give credit, of course, to MaNa. He played well initially, especially when it comes to responding to the mutas, to reacting, and also defending quite well against them. The mutas, they did not pay for themselves. If you recall, though, it was when the mutas were being dealt with, when MaNa decided to, as he was expanding, to move out across the map, and that's when he lost 6 High Templar. That was the moment when momentum swung heavily in favor of Serral. That was 6 High Templar going down. At the same time, if you remember, that was also Serral knocking down the 4th base as MaNa was attempting to expand at the same time as he was pushing. And from that moment, he never took a 4th. He never got his 4th base and running. If you recall at the time, I was like, oh, because we saw the fleet beacon, I was like, oh, MaNa, he's just going to turtle. He's just going to defend back at home, just turtle up, get a 4th base, and try to max out from there. Alas, that was when he decided to move out, and he did overextend. Even though the move out wasn't too bad, if you recall, it was just that he had left his High Templar exposed, and they all went down, which was the brutal moment. If he had just gone in, taken down the base, then backed off, then maybe a different story. Regardless, GG, well played. Serral does take a lead in the series, and now we're getting into game number 2. Let's go. Game 2 is going to be on King's Cove, a much larger map, but also a much more open map as well. The 4th bases on King's Cove are much more exposed compared to Ley Lines, the map that we just casted on. So because of that, it's going to be potentially even more difficult for MaNa to expand. We'll see if he does adjust, we'll see if he does, or how he does adapt. So we're jumping into game number 2, and spawning in the top left-hand corner of King's Cove, we have the Polish Protoss player, the blue Protoss representing Team Liquid. Down in this series, we'll see if he can bounce back. It is MaNa. And spawning in the bottom right-hand corner, we have his opponent. We have the Finnish Zerg player, the red Zerg representing Basilisk. Leading the series 1-0, it is Serral. Here we go. I never thought that the bubble attack would be a disadvantage for the High Templar on some occasions. Yeah, it was a shame, right? Like, you're not wrong. You know, in a world where High Templar never got their auto attack, they would have been fine. They would have been safe and sound. They would have been able to follow the army. But that's also why that was a little bit on MaNa. Technically miscontrol, right? For him to have moved in such a way was a rough moment, and of course Serral did punish it, right? Did punish it quite hard. Yeah. Feels bad, man. Feels bad. As now we are going to be settling in, so force take the unnatural natural, going for a hatch gas pull. Likewise, MaNa across the map going for his own gate expand. Everything looking normal so far. As we did mention in the previous game, and I guess we'll echo it again, that style out of MaNa, that build specifically to go for a Stargate opener into a 3rd base, 1 Oracle into High Templar, into Archon drop, that is what he thrives on. That's what he does enjoy. That's what he prefers as his go-to build in this matchup. We saw it in game 1, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see it here again in game number 2. There is a variation where he throws down extra gateways instead, and he turns it into an all-in. If you remember last game, he kind of like attempted that a little bit by reinforcing with slow lots, but Serral heals more than prepared. So MaNa, he does have some adjustments that he can make to it, but outside of that, like we should be seeing, or I would imagine we're going to be seeing the same opener. If we don't, we'll point it out. We'll see if MaNa does adjust, if he does try to adapt. If he brings something different to the table. And again, last game, he wasn't playing too poorly whatsoever. Considering the unscattered Spire for so long, he did handle himself very well against Serral, up until, of course, heading into the mid-game. So we'll see. MaNa is across the map, does pylon block, will delay the expansion for a couple of seconds. Does get out of there. There's that Stargate opener out of MaNa. Should be Stargate into Oracle. We'll see if he does do something crazy, like go for a Void Ray opener instead, or a Phoenix. As that does move out. And there it is, Oracle is on the way. So we have the initial Oracle opener. Deadpool throw in the shade. And speaking of the map, I mean, earlier we were alluding to how exposed it is as a map. I mean, King's Cove is one of the larger maps in the map pool, that is true, and it is very defendable on 3 bases. On your natural here, and on your third, you have a ramp coming into these bases. Likewise, no other kind of way in, no other attack paths, so very secure on a 3-base setup. The 4th base, less so. Especially here, the center 4th base is very much so wide out in the open, is very much so exposed, can be attacked from multiple angles. Likewise, here on the left hand side as well, is also not the most easiest base to hold on to. And there it is, yeah, Robo. Robo's on the way. It's going to be Robo into Twilight Council, into Temple Archives, into Archon Drop. So the same build so far. Same build from MaNa. Getting to his 3rd. But again, we saw how difficult it was for MaNa to establish. I mean, he never did establish a 4th base last game. This one, it might be even more difficult. So we might see MaNa be more defensive instead. Or just go all in. We'll see one of the two. As we are building up. Oracle's being somewhat active. Serral just back at home, happily droning. Saturating his bases. We do see a 440 Roach Warren timing here from Serral, so very safe timing. Does mean that he will have Roaches out in time for the Archons. So Serral is not cutting corners. There are some Zerg players that are, especially on some of these larger maps, that are willing to skip their Roach Warrens entirely just to be more efficient and just rush into a lair, rush into Ling Hydra instead of Ling Roach Hydra. But again, we can see that Serral is not cutting corners. Playing very safe. Lings, they get across the map, they get a probe, they force a recall. And once the Archons reveal themselves, just like the last game, Serral, he will have the option to go for a Spire and go into Mutas. Now, we did see last game that the Muta play wasn't really too successful for Serral, so he might just avoid it entirely. Might just avoid it. And just go straight into faster Hydra Lurker instead. Yep, speaking of, Hydra dead. So this time there's no Spire, there are no Mutas, going straight Hydras into eventually faster Lurker tech. So Archons a poke in. Oof. They threaten the Overlord. So far, good control here out of Serral. He doesn't just save the Overlord, he gets a lot of damage done on the Prism. Prism is getting low. MaNa, he has to be careful, shaving off some Lings. A couple of Lings. Once again, Prism is going to be targeted down, and MaNa has to back up. So far, solid defense here by Serral. Investing into his upgrades, +1 range tells us that again we should be taking a little bit faster into Hive Tech. But now just Roach Hydra. Back at home, Storm is on the way. Charge as well, the same setup here out of MaNa, securing his 3rd. And because the rush distance by ground is a little bit longer here on King's Cove, we might not be seeing Serral be as successful with his Roach run-bys. As Serral is taking into the Infestation Pit, again that's going to be for the Hive, that's going to be for the Lurkers. So much faster Lurker tech this time out of Serral. And again, I would imagine he's going to be a little more defensive this time as well. I mean, it was quite successful last game with his counterattacks and run-bys, but it was also a smaller map. MaNa, he hasn't gotten any critical damage yet, but he is 9 creep. Taking down the active tumors. Saving the Observer. Tanking some shots. There it is. Lurker Den's on the way. Hive is on the way. And Serral, he's just focusing on defense. Just keeping up. Getting a 4th base, now getting a 5th as well. Saturating, getting up to 83 drones. He's at his ideal worker count. He can now focus on his army production. Hydras are amassing. MaNa is getting his own 4th. And again, as opposed to the previous game, this time MaNa's 4th base should get fully operational. Again, MaNa is being more defensive. Serral, he breaks out. He's spotted by the Observer. MaNa getting in position. This time his army is alert. Oh! Observer gets caught out. MaNa's in the dark. The army gets spotted. And Serral, he does peel off a couple of forces. Going for the Oracle. How many immortals? 3, soon to be 5, as of course we're making 2 immortals at a time. Double robot production is building up. Serral, he pokes in. MaNa is ready. So far, so good. Serral at the same time going on left-hand side. Likewise, MaNa has some units in position. And likewise, he deflects. So MaNa is keeping up. He's getting his 4th base up and running. We have a Nidus Worm on the way. Oh,
game paused.
From the side of Serral. And hopefully everything's okay. So we do get a bit of a pause. Oh. Do get a bit of a pause. Share map in the chat. Just catching up. Just catching up. Did MaNa play back in Wings of Liberty? The name sounds familiar. Yes. MaNa, he's been around for a very long time. MaNa, was he a competitor in Warcraft 3 before SE2? Potentially. But yeah, MaNa has been around for a long time. Been around for a very long time. Which is also why it's really cool that he is at the level that he is at the moment. We spoke about this before, but again, MaNa, he kind of took a bit of a break from the game a little bit. I say a break. He did take a step back and he wasn't competing as often in online events, especially like 2023, end of 2022. But this year he has been on it. Been all over it. And has been quite competitive with the top players of his region. And even of the top players in Korea. I mean, there's a reason why MaNa's here. There's a reason why MaNa's a part of this group. Why he's among players like Serral, like Hero and Spirit. MaNa's been a beast as of late. So far, he's holding his own. Fleet beacons on the way. Second Forge +2. This tells us, as we made the assumption last game, but it should be the reality this game, is that MaNa should be defensive. He should be just turtling, getting a 5th base, securing himself, and taking it to Skytoss, and looking to max out. If you remember last game, he attempted this, but he was denied it as he was being a little bit too active, and lost his bases. Lost his 4th base over and over again. This time he should be keeping up. Storm going to be going up. Ooh, there's a lunge from the Hydras, taking down one of the Immortals. High Templar as well, very nice target firing. Gets High Templar to Immortals. Very nice pickups. +1 air attack is on the way. MaNa moving out, trying to force Serral to react, trying to force him to respond. So far it is working. Oh, at the cost of a High Templar. But again, MaNa just trying to be somewhat active to force Serral to stay at home. As Serral is setting up a Doom Drop. Drop Lords are loading up. Making his way towards that natural. Cannons and shield batteries are ready though. MaNa, he's played against Serral before. He's already prepared. Oh, as we've seen this before. That's going to be one. It's going to be, can he get 2? He can. 2 High Templar go down. Nice pickups here by Serral. MaNa once again overextending with those High Templar. Expensive losses. Doom Drop into the natural. The side defense will help, but we need the army. MaNa, he has to respond. Storm's going to be going up. Ooh, but the lurker position here is brutal. And MaNa, he's actually moving out. He responds with half his army. He should be able to clean this up. Storm's going up. Ooh, there's another juicy Storm. MaNa defends. But as he moves out, Serral is going for the center base. Going for the 5th. But there's not much here. Piece of a cannon. MaNa pushing right down the right-hand side. Going for the natural. It will catch a queen. Queens are going down. Serral responds. This is going to be an expensive run by though for MaNa. Does get into the mineral line. 20 drones going to be going down. Gets every worker here at the natural. Not bad. And keeps pushing. Does keep pushing out. Drones are falling. We see MaNa is being cleaned up. Does push towards the fresh mining base. Lurkers are out of position. But MaNa is pushing deep onto creep. Ooh, Observer goes down. MaNa has no detection. He cannot push onto lurkers. Gonna be reinforcing. Nice storms. But it's just the one storm. He's out of High Templar. There we go. The rest of them do come in. They do reinforce. And MaNa, he will take down the base. And he has to get the hell out of here. Activates Cloak. Gets 18 more workers. And he backs off. MaNa, he retreats. Very nice attack. He takes down 40 drones in total. And behind this, Tempest production. The Tempests are building up. I believe MaNa only has one Stargate. Yeah, only one Stargate is producing. It is unfortunate. You can see MaNa has a bank. But again, he's having a hard time spending his money. Serral going for a counterattack. He gets spotted. Does snipe the observers. Gets 2. Forcing the recall. MaNa races back. Now we get the second Stargate. Again, the second Stargate is late. This would delay the Sky Toss. All in all, that was a successful attack out of MaNa. Very nice. Getting 40 workers, taking down 2 bases. But now MaNa has to rebuild those observers, as that was his only detection. So his production is stifled. He's gearing back up. I'll show us the storm. As he does take down 3 of those lurkers. Whew. 3 lurkers go down. So pushing on the right-hand side. So far, MaNa, he's keeping up. So good. Pushing on both sides. Running to the lurkers. Nice storm. Storm goes up. Tempest kind of slowly building up. Does need more time. Serral's being forced back. MaNa, he does miss the army on the right hand side. That is concerning. Serral's moving out, so there is going to be a recall available. Slow zone on the lurkers. Yeah, lurkers are getting caught out. Massive pickups. MaNa, he takes out every single lurker at the same time. Here comes that counterattack. Does he recall? He commits. MaNa, he smells blood in the water. Takes down the 4th, going for the 5th as well. These bases are going to go down. We spoke earlier, these bases are very exposed, and they're going to fall. They're falling one after the other. Serral takes down the 4th. Can he take down another Nexus? Yeah, he will. He's going for it. Both players trading bases. Lurker count is building back up. He's got 4 lurkers. 4 lurkers on the higher ground. Does MaNa recall? Does he keep going? Nexus is under threat. Is pushing in. Remember, only 4 lurkers to defend. There's the cloak. Ooh, storms on the Hydras. Nexus eventually will go down. So has another base. And MaNa so far unaware. Is rotating over. Nexus is going to fall. MaNa down to 3 bases. But likewise, so is Serral. Yes, MaNa, he finds the expansion. Will shut it down. And in 3 base versus 3 base, I do favor MaNa. And MaNa, he's in a better position. Serral, he is struggling. Serral, he has no bank. He's out of money. I do like this Nidus. Serral is going to be able to essentially recall back home. Yep, he gets the hell out of here. Oh no! The move, the A move, not again! The immortals get left behind. 1, 2, 3 immortals go down. Massive pickups. Not again. Keep the army together, Pappy. Keep it together. There's the recall back home. Recall into the main. This is denied. We see MaNa re-expanding, so is Serral. But Serral, he pulls back out. And he does force a cancel. Now, as the dust settles, in a head-on fight, I favor MaNa. MaNa, he will straight up win if they do clash head-on. So Serral has to be very careful. Does retreat. Likewise, that's why Serral is setting up for Nidus Worms and counterattacks and Dropper Lords. Trying to force MaNa back home. Speaking of, there's a Nidus. Nidus across the map. MaNa pushing out. How many lurkers is he pushing into? That's going to be 12. Ooh, 12 lurkers for Serral. Not going to be easy to push into. Not too quickly, I should say. Nidus does complete. So coming in with the yoinks, catching out the Tempest. He gets one, he gets two. Ooh, just one Tempest goes down, the other survives. At the same time, Zelarambe here on the right-hand side. 9 drones going to be going down. So far, Serral not making use of the Nidus. Not yet. Serral, he's struggling here to hold. And the Tempest, they can reign free on this army, but here come the yoinks. Yeah, feedback's a little bit too late. Oh, can he get the Tempest? He gets one. He does barely not get the other. Oh no, he gets it. Gets both High Templars. Sorry, gets both Tempest. One Tempest left. One Tempest remaining. Serral is so quick to just regather energy on those Vipers. These Vipers are keeping Serral in this game. And MaNa, he backed off for a moment there. Did back off. So I'll run back into the main. That's a lot of observers. Jesus. That's like 5 observers. He's going for the Spire. MaNa, he rotates. And again, Serral is buying time. Reestablishing that center 4th, getting a 5th. Spire did go down. Serral, he rotates. MaNa trying to keep up. But again, Serral is just building up a higher lurker count. He had 12, now up to 17 lurkers. There's a Nidus. Nidus towards the north was cleaned up. Because there's so many lurkers, okay, there's 26 Hydras. I was a little bit concerned about the anti-air. Hydras, they move out for a counterattack. MaNa, he spots it, he turns around. He did turn around for a moment. But again, so he wants MaNa to go back home. Storms, they buy time. And Serral, he was down 50 supply. Now he's catching up. Serral, he's slowly catching up his supply. He re-expanded, taking 2 bases. He has saturation. Lurkers, they get caught a little bit unsieged. Yeah, they got caught unburrowed. Storm's going to be landing. MaNa, he commits. The Storms are brutal, and MaNa, he breaks through. He breaks through the defensive line. 17 lurkers, they mean nothing. GG gets called, and MaNa takes game number 2, tying up the series 1-1. Whew. GG. GG, well played. Again, this is MaNa who's able to get into a 4th base saturation. If you remember, that was what he struggled with in game number 1. He was denied the 4th base over and over again. MaNa was overly aggressive. Here on King's Cove, MaNa went for the same build, that is true, but different kind of outlook, different play style. MaNa much more defensive this time. He just turtled up on 4 bases, got into Skytoss, got a 5th base up and running, and got an army that Serral could not really engage with, could not really deal with that death ball of an army. Serral did go for counterattacks, and we ended up in a weird base trade, but MaNa came out on top. GG. GG, well played. MaNa, he got into his ideal, and if he can get there again, I do favor him, but ooh, we go from one of the larger maps in the map pool to one of the smaller maps, and this is where I have to favor Serral instead. Up next, game 3, we're going to be loading into Whispers of Gold. Outside of El Dorado, this is, what, the most aggressive map in the map? Well, I think even more than El Dorado, actually. Whispers of Gold, very small map, likewise very exposed, not just 4th base, but exposed 3rd base as well. It can be very difficult to defend on this map. This map is known for Queen all-ins, like Dropper-Lords, German taxis, Queen walks across the map. This map is known for all-ins from the Zerg side of things, so it's going to be much more difficult for MaNa to turtle up on a map like this. I'm a little bit concerned, but we'll see what the plan is. We'll see how he does approach this. So spawning in the top left-hand corner of Whispers of Gold, we have the Polish Protoss player, the Blue Protoss, representing Team Liquid. It is MaNa. And spawning in the bottom right-hand corner, we have his opponent. We have the red Zerg player representing Basilisk from the land of Finland. Down, or being forced into the ace match. We'll see if he can bring it back. It is Serral. Here we go. So we are settling in. So force like the unnatural natural. And again, just to reiterate what we were getting at in the previous game, one of the advantages that MaNa had was because King's Cove is so large, because it's so big, it did allow MaNa to defend, to be able to keep up with counterattacks and run-bys. It took that much longer for Serral to actually get across the map, to try to run by, to try to punish some of those bases. So it was a lot easier for MaNa to secure himself, to defend, and to get into that ideal army. Again, here on Whispers of Gold, a very different kind of setup here, a very different map, different advantages, and a lot of disadvantages as well. Here we go. So we are settling in. Hello, Rowdy. Hello, babylings. ¿Qué tal? ¿Cómo estás? Good to see you all. Good to see you. Yo, Esther, slower on. Calm down, Bobby. Calm down. Again, when it comes to the how the series has progressed so far, a lot of it I feel like does come down to the maps themselves and what they do favor. As we did mention, this map here is known for all-ins. The question becomes, though, now that we think about it, is yes, on this map, it does favor things like German taxis, Queen walking across the map. I mean, I say it, talking about it, this third base, the triangular third base, is very much so exposed. There is a ramp coming into it, but it's a very large map, sorry, very large ramp, very wide. Likewise, rocks can be knocked down as well to gain multiple access points to this expansion. Likewise, on the right hand side as well, you can force your way in between the bases instead. But is Serral one to all in? Is he one to go for a 2-base or a 3-base all in? Is he one to be aggressive like that? If not, then MaNa could pull off defending here. It's not going to be as easy, but going to be more possible. As we expect MaNa to go for the same builds. We mentioned it before, but Stargate Opener into Robo, into Twilight Council, into Archons and Immortals is the go-to of MaNa. We'll see if he deviates as well. As we're setting up on 3 bases. Going to be joining, getting the 4th. As calm as possible. We'll calm down even more than SMH my head. As Zep does threaten the shade towards the natural. Oh! Not quite getting a drone. Nice control out of Serral. Does save his workers. Nicely done. Oracle soon to move out, and MaNa will take his 3rd. Setting up a Star base. Yep, there's the Robo. Same build. Same build here at MaNa. So once again, it's going to be going into a Warp Prism, Twilight Council, into a High Templar, into Archon drop. Same build out of MaNa. The question becomes, do we see the same build out of Serral? Does he also play towards the late game? Does he also tech up into an Infestation Pit, into Hive Tech? Or is he more assertive early on? I feel like the onus is going to be more on Serral this game. More so than MaNa. As Serral is droning, Serral is saturating. So far, so good. Going for the 430 lair timing. Interesting. So earlier lair out of Serral. If you recall, last game was around this time that Serral got a Roach Warren, but no, that's going to be lair into Evo Chamber. This looks like +1 melee. And this looks like Serral is rushing into Hydras. Ooh, I say that, okay, there's the Roach Warren. That's what I was waiting for. The Roach Warren has in place. So safety timing, or safe timing here with the Roach Warren, but faster tech. And I'm curious if he indeed is going into +1 melee. We shall see. But now, no, it's going to be range. Okay, so it's going to be a bigger commitment here into Roaches. Into Roach Hydra. Curious. So Serral, he has our attention. Because of the faster lair, it means faster Roach speed. Faster Hydras potentially as well. As last game, the lair wasn't begun until past the 5-minute mark. Link's poking in. Archons have arrived. There's Roach speed on the way. I'm keeping my eye on the drone counts. Serral is up to 3 base saturation. Is amassing some roaches to defend. Archons, they go for the dive, they go for the queens. Not quite worth it, they didn't quite get them. Clutch moves here out of Serral, saving every single queen. Queens will save, the Archons get deflected. Serral, he is going to be joining up a little bit further, getting up to, what, 71? 69 even. Nice. He's taking gases. Okay. Taking gases. Basically, I was curious if Serral was going to go for like a max out +1 timing, like +1 range, like on based off of roaches, but the answer is no. Serral, he is droning, he's taking gases, and that allows him to tech into hydras. So Serral, he's teching up into hydras, into, I would imagine, infestation bit and hive tech. Serral is building up. Ling Runway is attempted. Back at home, MaNa. It's forced to cancel. Sapphire is keeping up. At least trying to. Storm is halfway done. Second gateway gets denied. Nice pickles here out of Serral. Serral, yep, taking more gases. He's moving out with his roaches. MaNa, he does spot them. He has to defend. Setting up more stack defense. Immortal production well underway. A bit of a supply block here from MaNa. Oof. Supply block is brutal. And Serral, he is not saturating that 4th base. Okay, Serral, he is building up Ling Hydra. Okay, he is looking to max out. This is what I was curious about. He does not get up to 4 base saturation. He does not throw down infestation. He does not take up into Hive. He's staying on Lair Tech, and he's maxing out on Ling Roach Hydra. Much more aggressive here from Serral. This is what we wanted, Pappy. Not a 3 base all in. It's 3.5 base, essentially, as there's some saturation at the 4th, and Serral is maxing out. So his cutting work is at 70. He's maxing out. And we'll see if MaNa can keep up. As Serral is setting with Doom Drop into the main. Denies the 5th. Sorry, denies the 4th even. The wall's open. Serral diving in the army. Oof. Storms are good. But one Immortal goes down. Roaches, they come in from behind. They get on top of the High Templar. He gets 1. Gets 1. He gets 2. 2 High Templar go down. Serral, he backs up, and here comes the Doom Drop. Okay, he loads up, headed towards the main. MaNa is somewhat in position. He has 2 Immortals and an Archon. He is set up. Drop comes in. Does force a recall. Recall into the main. MaNa, he does defend. At the same time, Serral pushing towards that natural. And this entire time, ooh, we do get a storm of the drop alerts. Oh my god. 2 drop alerts go down. And Serral, he's not killing these bases. He's not breaking the natural. He's not breaking the 3rd base, but he is denying the 4th. That's what's important. He's keeping MaNa on a 3 base economy. And MaNa cannot keep up, cannot max out. And behind this, Serral drones. Serral, he has acknowledged he cannot break MaNa, but he's done enough damage. You can see MaNa investing into more stack defense, and Serral's droning. Serral's droning, and now here comes, now the Hive, now the Lurker Den. This tech was late, it is delayed, but it's worth it because, hey, Serral, he denied the 4th. He denied the 4th base, and similarly to game 1, the win condition for Serral is make sure that MaNa never expands. Make sure he never expands, never gets a 4th base up and running, takes out another High Templar. Oh, takes down 2 more, forcing the Archon, trading with the army. Does trade. Forcing out storms. Doom Drop into the main. And just pulling MaNa apart. And just picking away at him, catching up more High Templar. No, he gets 2 more. 2 more High Templar go down. Takes a storm to the face. And MaNa is just being pulled apart at this point. It is just too much. And I do appreciate that Serral was more aggressive this game. Again, we spoke about it. We spoke about, King's Cove. But this map does lend towards aggression. It does support it. And here Serral, he's excelling. MaNa, he just wants a 4th base. He just wants an expansion. See Serral setting up for a flank. And no lurkers yet. I say a flank, a surround. And collapsing in the army takes out the Archons, collapses on the Immortals, and there's no support. Not enough. Serral starts steps forward. GG gets called, and Serral will take the series 2-1. GG. Whew. GG, well played. Serral does take down MaNa, but a shout out to MaNa because, hey, he forced the ace match. He did hold his own, and MaNa did show that, hey, if he can get into a 4-base economy, if he can get into Sky Toss, then MaNa can threaten even a player of the caliber of Serral. So very impressive play here out of MaNa. He came in as the underdog, and especially if people haven't been watching MaNa as of late, they might be a little bit surprised to see that he would take Serral to the ace match. So a very nice performance here out of MaNa. But Serral does advance on into the next round, into the winner's match. GG. GG, well played. Serral does advance on. For those that are curious, again, for those that are maybe tuning in for the first time, welcome to the LiuLi Cup. This is the group stage of the LiuLi Cup, and we are here in a GSL format group. What does that mean? That means that Serral does advance on to the winner's match, and Serral is waiting for the winner of the second series. There are 4 players in this group. It's not just Serral and MaNa. There's Hero and Spirit as well. So Serral, he's going to be waiting. He does have some time to himself. He can get some food. He can get some snacks. He can massage his Marines. He can hydrate his Hydras. And of course, he is waiting for Spirit versus Hero to wrap up. Speaking of, that is our next series. Up next is going to be that TVP. As we head on over to the Americas server. Beautiful. We head on over, vetoes are underway, and we're going to be going on a short break. When we come back, we will be getting into Hero versus Spirit. So take this time, again, get some snacks, get some food, get some water, get ready for a night of StarCraft. In total, we're going to have 5 best of 3s. We have our first already in the books. We have 4 left. 4 left back. Let's go. So we'll see you guys after the break. See you soon.